I have Brian here, and Brian White told me just a minute ago. He says, there's an earnings call coming up next Tuesday. And I was like, come on.
I just found out. No one knew. It was a big surprise to all of us.
And so I thought maybe Brian, because he learned about it and shared it with me, that maybe Brian has been thinking about what he would like to learn in this earnings call. And they said, you know what, throw out the retail questions, throw out all these stupid guys from the press, and let's just let you, Brian White, ask all the questions. So as many as you like. I'm going to give you the opportunity to ask Elon anything you want to ask him about what's going on over there in Tesla land.
Well, the first and most obvious question is, sup, bro? No.
And I actually know what that means.
The problem we get with a lot of the retail questions is that they're very good questions, but not pertinent to an earnings call. Right. I would love to ask about the compact. I would love to ask about Giga Mexico. Right. None of those are going to be answered. Probably. They're not supposed to be. They're forward looking. This is supposed to be a backward looking event. So we have questions that we should limit to that scope. So the first one I would want to know is, what is the actual gross margin on the megapacks? Because we can see a very lumpy picture of what the net margin is. But I've been to the Megapackery in Lathrop recently, made a video about it. I talked with Joe from the Tesla owners of San Joaquin Valley, who lives in that area and knows people who work there. And then an employee came out and I'm like, uh-oh, we're in trouble. And I turned off the camera. No, that was employees on break who know Joe. So we got to have a conversation. Now, these are assembly workers. They don't know things like, margins or volumes or anything like that. I'm certainly not going to try and get any of them in trouble.
Sure.
This factory does not have very many employees. It is not very large, and it prints pallets of cash. Yeah. I would like to know what that gross margin is,
and the net margin, the operating margin. That'd be great. Yeah.
Well, that's a next question because there's a bunch of pieces to it. So, my question, Mr. Musk, if you please, what kind of margins we looking at here? What's the actual margin?
We are I can't do voices, so I won't try.
You did try, but you're right.
My son is brilliant at it. I can't do it at all. Okay, so I would say that Elon has said in the past that they're shooting for 25% margins. It sounds like right now it is a moving target, given the way battery prices are, dropping like crazy, lithium prices dropping. So I don't know how you keep that margin in sight. As a business owner, as somebody who's been doing this my entire life, I would be shooting for the highest margins I could possibly generate, but that doesn't necessarily always seem to be what Elon does. Now, let me modify that just a little bit. You want the highest margins you can generate without causing your customer to feel like you're gouging.
Right.
And in particular, you're dealing with utilities. And so these utilities, you've got, these are not necessarily always the folks that are going to be, they can be, maybe let's just say, more easily bought off, charmed, taken to lunch. It's not quite the same as I've sold governments, I've sold counties, I've sold cities, I've sold Target and Target and Kmart. I've sold OEMs. When you're dealing with cities and governments and stuff, it's usually the most filled with not direct graft, not let me put a check in your bank account, but with the kind of you better know who you're talking to and who they're talking to and get all your bases covered. So one of those things would be, I wouldn't want to be going into the next meeting where the guy goes, boy, you sure overcharged me on that last one. I'm not giving you any more.
I think it's easier to overcharge governments because it's not their money.
There's a point to that.
It's someone else's money, where if it's in a company, a lot of the executives feel like, and it may even directly be their money. And I think you're right, because even though there's still a substantial backlog of megapacks, they've been cutting the price. It was over 2 million at one point. It's about 1.4 now, but even a 20% margin on that's 300 grand in profit per truck.
Yeah.
That is bonkers. And then we drove out to the holding yard, and there's too many to count.
Yeah.
And that's all money that's tied up that's going to hit in future quarters. It's not a quarter, because it takes time to deploy. There's tranches, if you will, at which certain revenues are actually accountable. So you're saying 20, 25%, right?
Well, 25. I would say minimum 25. I think he's looking for a minimum
The gross profit.
25%. Yes.
Okay. So then my question is, what is the residual margin on those? What is the residual profit? Is what money? Now we know there's like a 50,000 a year or something maintenance fee.
Right.
How much of that is margin, and what other factors play in? How many of these deals do we have where there is some kind of auto bidder software running for which Tesla gets paid?
Yeah.
Because auto bidder is as close to 100% margin as you're going to get.
Yeah.
So that's my second part is
How
the sale is complete. Yes. How many of these that you're selling have residual income on them? And is this just a flywheel of cash that's spinning up that's going to spit out money for decades?
Yes. And of course it is, because I want to go to Mars. I mean, I only way I can go to Mars is if my stock is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. And the way that happens is by showing the stockholders that this is a money printing machine. So, yes, I think there is flywheels of money in all kinds of directions. There's going to be his own megapacks that are going to be supporting his own distribution of electrons, if you will, in Texas and in England, et cetera, where they've already started doing this. I think there will be megapacks in the charging centers, the charging locations. They'll be supporting those charging locations and be auto bidding, doing arbitrage with the local utilities and making money there. I think there's going to be so many different ways that they're going to be making money with these megapacks.
And when you look at, if you've got time of use pricing at your factories, it is effortless to calculate how much benefit there is over the course of a day, every day, all year, especially if it's going to be from midnight to 4 a.m. You're going to juice it up, and then you're just going to use the power later in the day, whenever it's the most expensive. You can measure that, you can quantify it. And even if, LG is coming in with theirs, BYD is coming in with theirs, great. There's enough internal use that if it's profitable, it's profitable. Right. So, and those are all long-term possibilities. And then them getting into grid storage of their own, where they are their own utility. Right. That is, so good answers, Mr. Musk, good answers. Let's check the board. It's not on there. One question I've seen raised that I think is valid is, why don't we get a breakdown by model, by factory? Other manufacturers certainly provide numbers broken down by model. Many of them do it even by submodels and by factories. Clearly, this is something the analysts don't particularly care about. And I can see why S and X sales should be listed as other. Cybertruck, I think there's enough interest. People would like to see the actual number broken out. But 3 and Y are two different cars and compose 95% of sales. I wonder why are we not seeing those, and will we ever see those?
Well, the bookkeeping department at Tesla is lazy.
That's not it. Come on. That would be hilarious. Well, Terry used to do that, but they got family leave. Parents are not.
I've been asking for this. I've been asking for them to give us the breakdowns, but they won't do it. Do you guys really want this? Would this make you happy? It's not a big deal. We can do it.
It's,
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
I hope so. I'm just curious why they haven't. I understand there's a certain amount of proprietary information you want to keep to yourself, but I just don't see that as being, as filling that, need so much. It's very strange.
Well, the thing is that I recognize, I'm playing the role now. I recognize, as the leader of this company, that we have the largest retail stockholder base in the world. And that it's also exciting and interesting that you guys are so involved and so going into such nitty gritty and detail. And, I guess really it would only be fair. I should really give you all this data because it just gives you something to do as part of the drama. I mean, the drama of Tesla is better than any TV show. And so why wouldn't I want to give you the details of the daily drama so that you would have more to talk about, more to think about, and more to, so yeah, I got it. I'll talk to bookkeeping. Yeah.
If you didn't want to answer the question, sir, you could have just shouted security. So this is one that I've seen a few times and haven't gotten an answer to. Is there still Bitcoin on the books? What is the disposition of that section of the portfolio? And if there is, what's the plan with it?
Yes, well, our Bitcoin, small, we sold most of it, but we have this small amount still remaining, and it's, I don't even know why we're keeping it. It's, I guess just because it's probably as good a bet as any right now in terms of the market. It's beaten down a little bit, but it was doing quite well just a few weeks ago. So, it just seems like this is something that could go to 500,000. If it does, we make a lot of money.
Well, and it's still, I believe, substantially up from where it was purchased at.
Yes.
So I think it's above water. And the cost basis on it is now whatever the lowest point it's been at the end of a quarter is the new cost basis.
Right.
Because all that depreciation had to be accounted for.
Yeah.
So, okay. And the last one I would say, question 5, these are the five big Brian questions from little Brian himself. Supercharger margins. For a long time, he said, superchargers will not be a revenue stream for us. A profit center, I think is the better term. Of course, they're revenue stream. You have to pay for them. But it's pretty clear that there is a markup on the juice. Is the 30 cents, 38 cents that I pay at a supercharger, does it end up being, not a profit center because of all the people with free supercharging that I'm paying for? Or is that money going to expansion, or is it now a profit center? My question is, even though it's still the cheapest in the industry, much cheaper than Blink or 𝐓𝐞𝐬𝐥 or Electrify America, it's still more expensive than it could be. Why is that?
So the long-term plan is to have these be completely solar powered with mega packs, so that we can have the energy portion of it be virtually free. That's the long-term plan. However, right now, in terms of OpEx, in terms of our bandwidth of putting these charging systems out there, what we're really concentrating on is getting them located in the right place at a low cost of ownership or of rent, where we're putting them in places that are really like close to freeway exits, and really picking our locations well, getting a lot of them out there, getting tons of them out there so that there's no question about being able to get power when you need it. And then we're also experimenting with all kinds of ways to enhance the locations to make them more user-friendly, more fun, and also those user benefits would also add to the bottom line. All of that is costing us massive amounts of CapEx, which is being depreciated. And of course, that is eating up almost all of the profits at this point. To your point, we do give away some supercharging, but that will probably become less and less over time. So right now, we'd be thrilled. My goal has been, and I mentioned it before, to get 10% operating profit on the gross. But long-term, there's no reason why that shouldn't be higher as we optimize the situation and continue to try to give the best price, but also get our costs in line so that we can make maybe move ourselves up into that 20% or 25% operating margin.
Okay, so here's the math that I did on this, because these are my questions. Thank you. You did a great job. Around 38 cents a kilowatt hour is where you break even with gasoline. And on the bigger Teslas, you get not as many miles per kilowatt hour, just like on the bigger cars, you get not as many miles per gallon. 38 cents is about where the break even is.
Correct.
And others can do the math and come up with slightly different numbers. I'd love to hear your math in the comments. But it's certainly below 50 cents. If the objective is to get as many people into EVs as possible, there's a couple things you need to do. One is build more superchargers and get more cars on those superchargers. Because I've seen other companies charging as much as $1 a kilowatt hour, which means if you want to charge your Hummer or Silverado from 0 to full, it's $200 for your fill up. That is how you disincentivize EVs.
Right.
No one in their right mind should be paying $1. That is insanity. And Electrify America was not built to be profitable. It was not built to pursue EVs.
Right.
It was built by a company that got caught cheating on emissions on their dyno burners. And I get it. There's no actual dinosaurs in the moss sauce, but it doesn't sound as good. So I've got to say it that way. We need to keep that moving. We need to keep that growing and expanding. And we need it to not be 50 cents unless it's, holiday surge pricing and you're trying to get everyone to not use it.
Right.
On a normal stop, we need more affordable charging.
Yeah. I haven't paid any attention. I use a supercharger about every 60 days. I've never paid any attention to what I was being charged. You've done a ton. What do you think the average is?
So I just drove 6,000 miles from the Pacific Northwest through Colorado, through the Midwest, out to Michigan, down to Oklahoma, to the Panhandle, Arizona, San Diego, and then back up the coast. And the highest I think I ever saw was maybe 44 cents a kilowatt hour. It might have been a little higher, maybe even 48. And the lowest I saw, every now and then you'd see like a 20 or 25 cent, which is a marginal improvement over gas. Well, I guess it's half of gas. But if you don't have access to home charging and you're trying to, as many people don't, if your fuel savings is negative, it becomes a new consideration. If there's only one fast charger in your town and you don't have home charging, you will never buy an EV unless you've got more than one screw loose, Randy.
I was thinking of hooking my extension cord up to my neighbor's their electrical outlet on the outside of their home, and just pulling that would keep my cost really low.
Well, you just wait until they're on vacation.
Oh, I see.
And then you run the extension cord. No, what you do is you go to the park and just drive up next to the gazebo and plug into their outlets. Should be fine.
Should be fine. Okay, so those are your questions then.
Those are my questions, Randy. Okay. You gave me a better answer than I expect at the earnings call.
Well, yes. Well, I very highly doubt on that fifth one that would be Elon's actual response, but boy, would I be thrilled if it was.
You'd seem like a prophet.
That too. Yeah, I'd be thrilled. I meant as a stockholder, but yes, as a prophet.
Oh, yeah, because it turns out people check the transcript. It's word for word. What is going on?
Well, Brian,
you're a crazy man.
I hang out with you. This would be.
It doesn't help.
It doesn't help. All right. So, given all of that, I guess we'll conclude today's session. That'll be $150 because I'm a cheap therapist. And Anyway, thank you, Brian, as always, for coming on, and to all of you out there. It has been absolutely amazing talking to you.